Hey everyone, it's Andy from Primal. You've probably noticed these refrigerators in our Saratoga and Albany store and may have been wondering what exactly is going on. These are our dry ager units, and we are now dry aging our own short loins, bone-in ribeyes, bone-in strips, and even some Wagyu strip. And if you have never had dry aged steak, you are totally missing out. So what we're going to do now is I am going to go over just a little bit about what dry aging is, the different flavor profiles, and then I'm going to show you how to cook a dry aged bone-in ribeye. So let's get started. So dry aging is done by storing meat in a controlled, closely watched, refrigerated environment. The temperature needs to stay between 36 degrees Fahrenheit and freezing. If it's too warm, the meat will spoil. If it's too cold, it will freeze, which will halt the aging process. You also need the relative humidity to be between 85 and 90% to reduce water loss, and to control bacteria, you need a constant flow of air all around the meat, which means it needs to be in a very well-ventilated space. The dry ager achieves all of these parameters. It has precise control over temperature and relative humidity and has a constant flow of air circulating at all times. This is why the dry agers remain locked, as any prolonged interruption to the process can cause a loss of product. As far as the flavor of dry aged beef goes, because moisture is drawn out of the meat, the beef is left to be a more flavorful and sharp, similar to what a sharp cheese might be, but with a beefy flavor. As Chef Lawrence Knapp puts it, dry-aged steak should have a big beef flavor, but also a funk, which is similar to blue cheese. If you can smell that, you know you have a good beef in front of you. Another reason dry-aged beef is so amazing is that only the finest cuts get the chance to become dry-aged. The better the marbling of the beef, the better the dry-aged product will be, and because of this, we only dry-age USDA Prime or Wagyu cuts. So, on to cooking. Because of the moisture loss in dry-aged steak, the only real difference between a dry-aged steak and wet-aged, as far as cooking goes, is time. A dry-aged steak should be cooked in approximately 30% less time than a wet-aged steak would be, as there is less moisture to begin with. Everything else is going to be the same. You rotate it to a new spot to get the X marks, you cook it on indirect heat after the initial searing, and you let it rest on a cutting board covered with foil when it's done. So these I cooked rare and did them for about 2 minutes per side before moving to indirect heat for about 8 minutes or so. Obviously, if you like them a little more towards medium, you just adjust your time up a little bit. So there you have it. That is just a quick introduction to dry aging, the process that we do and how you would go about cooking it. These are available in both our Albany location in Stuyvesant Plaza and Saratoga in the Wilton Plaza. And as always, you can shop online and visit us at www.yourlocalbutcher.com.